How's everybody doing? Welcome back to Richwine Garage. Today is definitely going to be a different type of video. For those of you that have listened to all the dialogue through my video, you know one of the main reasons why I did this is, as a channel, is because I always wanted something more than just pictures for my kids to look back at. We're currently due with our first one in the beginning of March. In this video, I plan on releasing the same week that she's born. So, yay, we have a kid. We're excited to meet her. I'm excited to do things. But this video is going to be a pain to edit. And because I talk and I ramble a lot, so I actually took some notes on my phone to make sure I stay on track. So, basically, what this video is tips or tricks or philosophies that I have used throughout my life that has definitely helped me get through life lessons and everything else. Now, am I saying that you should take everything that I say to heart? No. Everybody has their own thing, and that's going to be a part of this. But these are basically mindsets and ways of looking at problems to make them a lighter load and more achievable, if that makes sense. And there's going to be some props going through this also. But there's two key things that I really want to get at here, at least in this video. I might do a few more of these. Knowing versus understanding something. There is a huge difference. There is a video that I would suggest to anybody to go out and watch that is Smarter Every Day, and he tackles the subject quite a bit in that video. But basically, Smarter Every Day breaks down simple or very complex items, physics, engineering, and makes them simple and easy to learn. And something that he tried to tackle with that is something called knowing versus understanding. He met a group of welders and engineers that took a bike, put a gear set up on the steering bars of the bike, on the handlebars. That way, when you turned left, the wheel would turn right, and when you turned right, the wheel would turn left. And Destin, the guy that hosts Smarter Every Day, has ridden a bike his entire life. And he got extremely frustrated when he couldn't ride that bike. He had the muscle memory to ride a bike, but didn't have a full understanding of how to ride a bike. He got even more curious, probably a little bit more frustrated too, but more curious when he challenged his kid to ride a bike like it. And his kid was just learning how to ride a bike. And within just a few weeks or a short month or so, the kid was able to pick it up quick. When Destin finally conquered it after like 2 or 3 months of trying to ride that bike, he had a hard time going back to a normal bike. He literally had to reprogram his brain to think about something like that. Why is that important? If you don't understand something, you need to take a step back to try to understand it, because other people are going to go at items differently than you. My analogy that I use for this is that I need to get to the answer number 4. Let's say my wife and I need to come out to the result of number 4 on this math equation. There's almost infinite amount of ways to get to the result of number 4. It could be as simple as 2 plus 2. It could be 4 plus 0. It could be negative 10 plus 4 plus, what would that be? 10 minus 2. There we go. That was rough. But that's the meaning of it. When you know something and you try to communicate that you know something, but somebody else also knows something that still gets the result of 4, you tend to conflict. You have a hard time communicating. Trying to understand something gives you the ability, A, to communicate, B, to teach, and C, a better understanding of that subject to the point that you could be an expert on it. Now, would that be an expert on everything? No. No, not at all. Do you need to understand every single little thing? No. No. We're going to get to that here in a bit. Sorry. Looking through my notes. So, the reason why I say that you don't need to understand everything, it's good to know a good portion. And don't ever think that you know everything. That's about the dumbest thing that you can think, because somebody will always prove you wrong on that. I have a jar here. And typically I talk about a metaphorical jar. And this jar has a certain number of, let's keep this G-rated for right now, has a certain number of fudges inside of it. Wooden little planks in here that say a word that's totally appropriate for all ages. And let's say that word is fudge. This jar represents my mental capacity for the day. Whenever I choose to care about something, learn about something, or speak about something, communicate about something, I'm giving up one of these pieces. Now, some individuals are able to only give letters out of this. They might give an F here, a G here, an E here. They won't give the entire word fudge. Me personally, I typically give the entire word. And this is where the difference between needing to know everything and understand everything comes into play. You have a limited amount of fudge inside your jar. You need to choose wisely. Now, the reason why this jar is daily is because as you grow up and as you go through things in life, your fudges are going to change. They're going to. I mean, talk to any adult that is 25 or older and ask them if they care about the same things that they cared about in high school. Sadly, there might still be some, which is great for them, I guess, but for the most part, everybody's priorities change. And to my daughter, yeah, my priorities changed after you're arriving. Might look at things a bit differently. Might look at something that I'm doing that's stupid, that might be life risking, and know that I have somebody else to take care of. So be very careful with that. I would highly advise to write on top of your jar, whether you have it physically or in your head, choose wisely. The reason for that is if you don't, and you come across a situation during your day that you have to give even a letter, but your jar is empty, that's called mental exhaustion. And you're not going to be wholeheartedly into it. And everybody's amount of fudge that they have in their jar is different for everybody. Some might have 100 pieces. Some might have 1,000 pieces. Somebody might only have 2 pieces for today. Things could be going wrong. You can never know. So for your own mental health, choose very carefully what you give a fudge about and how you hand out your fudge. Along with that, let's talk about knowing and understanding in a mix of this. Individuals are going throughout their days completely giving out these pieces of fudge. What they give their fudges to are their decisions. Can you disagree with those decisions? Yes. Yes, you can. Does that make you right or wrong on those? Not entirely. Now, of course, right and wrong is a whole philosophy thing, and we're not going to go down that route. But let's say that you come across somebody that seems like you're having a conversation with them, but they're not really having a conversation back. Well, there could be a couple of options there. A, maybe their jar's empty, and they just don't have the mental capacity for it right now, which typically inverted people or introverts like myself might not have the capacity for that. Also, B, maybe they only give you a letter when you were looking for an entire word. Well, then at least you got partial of it. And then there's also the best scenario is that they give the entire fudge when you give an entire fudge. And those typically become friendships or relationships that you go through without your life. You guys care about the same things. So just because somebody doesn't give you even a letter of their fudge doesn't mean that they're an awful person or that they hate you or anything like that. Remember, any actions that you take towards a subject, you have to give a piece of this. So to physically or to mentally or physically sit there and hate somebody, they have to give you at least a letter. So if they're just not clocking in at all, maybe they don't have the capacity for it, or they're being very protective of their jar. I tend to be very protective of my jar. Within my life, I found myself giving out my fudges way too easily and getting stuck down rabbit holes and trying to figure out how to communicate with people. So I play all my fudges on the card right there with them. But then I realized at the end of the day, when I needed to give a fudge about something, I wasn't able to. My jar was empty. And that became self-deprecating because, yes, I was able to help somebody else, but I wasn't there to help myself. And then it wasn't fair of me to sit there and ask another person to do the same for me because they were being protective with their jar. So as you go out throughout life and you begin to know something, and then maybe you give a fudge about it enough to try to understand that something, don't be offended that other people might not be into it. That's fine. You can give partial letters out to hear what they like, and they can give out partial letters to see what you like. Doesn't mean you have to give the entire word. Along with that, don't be so protective with your jar that you can't teach somebody something. One of the very weird things about my anxiety, let's say, is that I'm not a fan of a group of people. It's overwhelming to me. I'm not a people person. The really weird part is that I've been in a lot of leadership positions, and I've what I call cruise direct a lot of events, and typically they go pretty well. Now that's from years of experience, but I had to take some of my fudge and I had to learn how conversations went, and I had to try to understand how to portray something that needed done, something that needed learned to another person. So how do you make that communication effective? Figure out what they're giving their fudge to. Figure out something that they can relate it to, that they actually care about. If it's Pokemon cards, maybe that's still a thing when you're actually watching this and trying to get something out of it. It used to be a trading card game. If it's something like that, maybe you can relate, I don't know, statistics that are happening within your job to different levels of rarity of Pokemon cards. If you could see the lessons that I try to sit here and teach within my YouTube videos, then you can see that I try to relate it to things that are outside of here, and I try to break it down in the simplest terms. Because whenever you look at a complex problem, for instance, I'm looking past the camera right now at that farm all that we drug out of a barn, or the Ferguson, or there's a couple other projects that are going to be coming up. The best way to attack any complex problem is to step back, take a breath and start breaking it down. Whether that's mentally in your head, whether that's writing down a checklist, whether that's sitting down and watching YouTube videos and trying to get how other people did it and find their processes to do things. Take that time. If you're bullheaded and you go into a situation, you're going to learn, especially after the situation, that there was a better way to do it. And even if you take all the time in the world to sit there and plan something out, it's not going to go to plan. But you're more mentally prepared for it. You're ready. You might oversee a certain issue or a problem, or you didn't order a part for something. And you can step back and say, okay, mental note, next time, watch out for this. Do this instead. And you'll more wisely be able to sit there and give out your fudges. And you might become so good at something and you might understand something that you can just give it a partial letter of your fudge and still be able to complete the thing because you're so efficient at it. It gives you more room to have this jar open in the meantime. Now, does that mean become obsessive over it? No. Remember, this is limited. Choose wisely. But these are things that need to come out and need to be able to communicate effectively, need to be able to understand other people's mindsets. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. If somebody is giving you the time of day to talk to you, they're opening up their jar. They're giving you a piece of that fudge. Don't waste it. Now, let's say that it's an individual that you don't really share things in common, that you don't really care to give a piece of fudge to. Well, there's a couple ways of doing it. You can be upfront with them. Most people do not like confrontation. And most only get confrontation when they're trying to protect something. Maybe they're trying to protect their own jar or something like that. Or you can just politely listen and then let it be. Now, if somebody is obsessively trying to get you to lay out a piece of your fudge, then that's where you have to have the conversation. You have to have that. You have to give up at least a letter to let them know, hey, sorry, but not really seeing eye to eye on what we're talking about or really care to keep this going. That's what separates human beings in society from an animal pack. Even like training an animal, they're trained off whether something is good or bad. A dog might get a timeout or they might get a treat. Depending on what result that they get, they're going to adjust their actions to make sure that they get the action or the results that they want more and more. You're going to do the same thing, but there's a complexity added onto it that good and bad isn't black and white by any means. And when you have to sit there and judge what you're going to give a fudge about out of your jar, and you have to translate that to somebody that might not understand it, if they're willing to understand it, you can teach them. If they're not willing to understand it, they're most likely going to be offended at first. And that's okay. Don't lose sleep over that. And I'm not telling you to be cold-hearted. What I'm telling you is that if you start doing that, again, you're emptying out your jar. You're giving that to somebody. See how quickly the tax is on this stuff? It's pretty amazing how quick this jar empties. So, just as a general recap, I want you to know there's a difference between knowing something and understanding something. And I want you to take tally of your jar. Whether you use the word fudge, Whether you use the word that's actually inside this jar, that I need to come out with a G-rated version before my daughter is here, I want you to at least take mental capacity of this and start to think about it. What do you care about throughout your day? What are your priorities? What are your goals? What are some of the pillars of your life that you care about and that you will always give one of these fudges to? And then how much room does that leave for other things within your life? Choose wisely. I hope you choose wisely. You won't always do. Some days you'll screw it up. We all have. But learn from it. Go from it. Well, to my daughter, I'm glad you're here. I love you so much without you even knowing it yet. Hopefully, I can instill some of these lessons into your life. And hopefully they're worthwhile. Love you. Everybody else, I'll see you next week.